and it's day 6 on the vlog every day for a week, and today we're looking at Batman, the Dark Knight, or the Cape Crusader as he's also known. I'm surprised I didn't think of this one sooner. I was running out of ideas, and we were discussing at book club today movies and things. Mostly it was from Prometheus and how it's full of plot holes, and then we got onto action films like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, then we got into the new Batman movies, and that idea hit me. I can do Batman! So here we are. The Batman! From 27 in 1939. In the case of the chemical syndicate, Batman is really old, if you couldn't tell. And he was also back then referred to as the Batman, which is why occasionally he is now referred to as the Batman, rather than Batman. And also, he could, along with his other nicknames, the Dark Knight, the Cape Crusader, the world's greatest detective, because that's what he originally is. And we'll get onto that in a bit, but he was originally a detective. I shouldn't really need to explain some of the background to Batman. His secret identity is Bruce Wayne, his parents were murdered in front of him, so he vowed to fight crime and kill things, but in the end that was retcon where he doesn't kill things, but again, we'll get into that in a bit. So there's Alfred, the butler, Batcave. I shouldn't have to explain Batman to you, so I'm not going to. But what I will add is that originally, he didn't really fight the crazies. He fought normal criminals. I mean, today he fights like the Penguin and Mr. Freeze and the Joker, and sends them to Arkham, but doesn't kill them. Well, back then, he wasn't afraid to kill criminals. He was dark and gritty and scary and all of the things that we associate with Batman, really. Over the next few issues, they began to flesh out Batman, even forming his trademark giant chin that so many things like to parody. Well, in issue 29 came the utility belt. In issue 31 we saw the Batplane and Batarangs. Then, after that, came Dick Grayson, aged 8, as the Boy Wonder Robin. By 1940, Batman saw him starring in his own comic called Batman. The first issue saw the introduction of the Joker and Catwoman, two of his most famous villain and whatever you define Catwoman as, villain, anti-hero, love interest. But this issue also saw some controversy, which is pivotal to what Batman as a character is. It saw him shooting monstrous giant creatures, and from then on it was declared he should no longer wield a gun, only if it was absolutely necessary, which is only done, I think, once. During the 50s, the comic book industry genre, superheroes mainly, started to wane and decline. So, DC, in a brilliant move, decided to combine their two greatest heroes into one comic book. Superman and Batman joined for the first time. A pairing that would last in the comic series for, well, at least until 1986 when the comic book was cancelled. We also saw the introduction of the Comic Code Authority, which said that certain comic books, like Batman, were too gritty and violent for young kids, and they had homosexual undertones that had to be removed, so the series became more lighter and campier, with the introduction of Batwoman and Batgirl as love interests for each character to combat this apparent homosexuality that had somehow appeared, considering when you think about it, Robin was aged 8 when he was picked up. I don't know how old he is now, but he was I don't know, but he was young. That's creepy. The fact that people think that, crazy. time also saw them become more sci-fi orientated, where the episodes had like aliens and weird gizmos and gadgets and things. I think there's mutant plants in an episode. In an episode comic, well, it was an episode on Linkara, but that's not the point. Yes, this was the time in The Brave and the Bold, number 28, when he joined the Justice Society of America. By 1964, sales have fallen dramatically. They even said they may kill off the Batman. Thankfully, they never went through with it. But the series was revamped, outdone. They even introduced the trademark or yellow logo behind Batman and got rid of all the campy and sci-fi elements. There was a dog that I forgot to mention, Ace, the Wonder Hound, I think he was called, Bat Hound, and he was booted out as well, thankfully. And they got rid of Batwoman, but they kept the idea of Batgirl. But they changed who she was. They made her Barbara Gordon in the end, until the Killing Joke. Again, we'll get onto that later. They did, however, kill off Alfred, but the fans hated it so much they reversed it. Go fans! I don't even need to say what comes next. I should just be able to say, "Holy 60s campiness, Batman!" and you'll understand. Yes, they saw the introduction of The Batman Show with Adam West, which is the zaniest, campiest. It is so cheesy, it is just, But they decided to make the comics more like the series, because the series meant that they were selling thousands, hundreds upon thousands of copies each week. And then in '68, the show got cancelled, and the comic book sales again went in decline. Thankfully, after this spiel and campiness, they decided to go back to the gritty and stark, violent and big-chinned era of Batman, where he was all sinister, well not sinister, mysterious and whatnot. Sales continued to fall, reaching an all-time low in 1985. But then Frank Miller stepped in. No noise. No. This is no dun 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 moment. No. This is good. Frank Miller is deemed as a good writer and a bad writer, depending on what he's writing. Batman is a mixed thing. There are points where he's good, like The Dark Knight Returns, which is what I was going to introduce, and All-Star Batman and Robin. I'm not going to go into how bad it is. If you care that much, I will put a link. I will actually put the link, because this is important. I will put the link to Linkara's review of it in the doobly-doo. This is why I don't like Miller. But you'll see if you watch that. But The Dark Knight Returns saved Batman and put him in an all-new success. This was good. This was about Batman when he was like 50 years old, making him redon his cape and helmet, hat, mask, cowl, whatever you want to call it, and make him become Batman again. It was good. Then came one of the single best stories of Batman ever. I mentioned it earlier, The Killing Joke, which saw the Joker try to make Commissioner Gordon go crazy, so he got his daughter and shot her in the back, meaning she was paralyzed forever until the DC reboot, but again, we'll get onto that later. Yes, so she became Oracle, the computer whiz tech thing, if just, and it's by Alan Moore. Our next big story was A Death in the Family, which saw, after voting, there was a vote to see whether they wanted this to happen or not. Jason Todd, the second Robin, died. I know, I was shocked when I heard this. They killed him. He came back later, but that's not the point. They killed off Robin. Like, it wasn't Dick Grayson Robin, which is good. It was Jason Todd Robin, which was okay. But still. 1993 saw Nightfall, which introduced Bane over here. Now, Bane is probably most famous for the terrible, absolutely atrocious Batman and Robin movie. But he's more famous, in comic books at least, for being the man that broke the bat. He broke him. He took him, broke his back. He recovered in the end. Somehow he managed to recover from a broken back, but he is Batman, so I'm not questioning that. But during this time, he was replaced by Azrael, whose Batman costume looked like this. I'm sensing Robert Liefeld had something to do with this. Again, you want to know who Robert Liefeld is? There's a review of his Youngblood comic in the thing below. In 2003, we saw Batman Hush, a 12-part miniseries, mystery, kind of. It actually was a detective where Batman went against pretty much his whole rogues gallery in this point. And that's a lot of villains. I mean, a lot. Well, it was Batman and Catwoman, but still, it is a lot. And this is the comic that saw Jason Todd return from the dead, who was Robin earlier. Anyway, what was the importance of this thing, you may be asking? Well, not much. It boosted sales. It introduced Hush. I'm debating whether to reveal to you who Hush is, because it's kind of good not to know. It's part of the mystery element. I'm not going to tell you. If you want to find out, Google it, but I'm not telling you. In 2009, we saw Batman Rest in Peace, which saw Batman go against the mysterious final Black Glove organization, which sought to drive Batman mad, crazy, like Joker kind of crazy. Anyway, this then led into Final Crisis. I'm not going to go into Final Crisis. There are too many Crisis stories. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Final Crisis. There are lots of them. Generally, it's to do with the multiverse. I'm not going to explain the multiverse. I probably already have. If I haven't, it's normal Earth comics, parallel Earth comics. They're all in the multiverse. It's just lots of different worlds which crises happened within them. This is not my area of expertise. I know what Linkara tells me and what I decide to Google. But anyway, the end of this saw Batman be shot by Darkseid and his body seemed to be dead. There is a convoluted and complicated story behind why this wasn't Batman, but all I'm going to say, it involves clones, a soul-removing gun that puts you in alternate universes, and time travel. During this time, it saw Dick Grayson take up the cowl as Batman, and Batman's son, Damian Wayne, take up the role of Robin. In 2010, we saw Batman, The Return of Bruce Wayne, which is where the time travel element comes in. He travels through time and finally gets back to modern day era, with him returning to being Batman, and then allowing Robin to be Batman, and created Batman Incorporated, which is putting Batman all over the world, because Batman isn't a superpower, it's a thing, so somehow he's able to make you Batman, and him Batman, and her Batman. I don't know how it works, okay? It's DC, so I'm just knowing what I'm reading. September of last year saw, well, basically, they blew up the universe. That's the nicest way I can think of putting it. They rebooted everything. They hit delete, restart, and started again. Batman is one of those that hasn't had much changed. Batman still does fight crime, there's still stuff going on. He's fighting some secret organization of the Penguin at the moment. Can't remember. I was looking at the comics earlier. I think I saw Penguin. Maybe I was looking at something else. Anyway, yeah, not much changed. Batman Incorporated still exists. Batgirl, who, remember, was shot and paralyzed earlier and became Oracle, returned to being Batgirl. I don't know why, but she had her own comic, or has her own comic. So, that was a brief look at the more publication history than the chronological Batman history, because there's a lot of actual Batman stuff that I missed off. Like, never mind the that's for me to worry about later, not now. But, Anyway, this is me saying